Alright, y'all. We'll have another rambling video as I normally do. But this one is a little bit of my thoughts on the friendless epidemic that we're kind of dealing with right now. It's happening all over the world where people are coming to the realization that they don't actually have any friends or people who they can rely on, people who they can count on. And people are dealing with it in certain type of ways. They're coping with it the best they can, but it's definitely something that I've noticed with my generation, the millennials and Gen Z. We're just not as connected on the surface as our parents and the generation that came before them generation. So at first, my first thoughts were people are antisocial, people don't want to connect, people don't want to get to know other people, and this is something that we need to just get past and start to go out more and try to connect. That was my first initial thoughts when I started seeing this trend all over the place. But now that I've been reflecting on it and giving it a little bit more nuance, I've noticed that this is actually something that's been true for a very long time. It's just the definition of friend has changed over time. And let's give an example. Back 40, 50 years ago, people would have said they would have had 5, 6, 7 friends, but in reality they probably might have had like 5 or 6 different acquaintances. They weren't really friends. They were people who didn't try to rock the boat. They didn't really tell their so-called friends too much about themselves. They didn't really have too many differing opinions. So it was very easy to have a lot of friends back then, when a lot of people were doing the same things, watching the same things, eating the same foods. The communities were pretty much on the same page. But as we have evolved, especially our brains and our communities have evolved over time, and we have just gotten more with the invention of the internet. It's gotten more intelligence. We have noticed that, or at least I've noticed that, a lot of people's interests and values have shifted, and that is causing a lot of people to understand for themselves that the people who 50 years ago would have been their friends aren't actually their friends, mainly because of they're not getting that camaraderie, at least that surface level camaraderie, as they did before. And I think that's the main reason for that is just the self-awareness that people are starting to have about themselves and their environment and their surrounding environment has pretty much waking people up to see things for what they truly are and people for what they truly are. And people are being more honest and open about who they are, what they feel, what they see, what they think. That was pretty much taboo, 50 years ago and beyond that, where people would just kind of all want to be on the same page, don't want to ruffle any feathers, don't want to, stick out or stand out. And it was, a lot of people, societies and communities have benefited from that, but there's a reason why pretty much all over the world that is no longer the case, at least in most of the developed countries, is because a lot of people were hurting under those conditions. They were being silenced, they were being suffocated or muted by just conforming to what everyone else was doing. And now that people are becoming more individualistic, trying to get their needs met to make sure that they're able to become the best person that they can become, um, it's causing like a wedge between people where now we're all kind of hyper focusing on our differences instead of realizing like all of our similarities. You know, because of the internet, because of especially social media, we have so much access to people that we never had before. People are becoming more self-aware of their shortcomings, at least in their eyes, their what they have and what other people have, and it is heightening people's insecurities about themselves. Um, when you are constantly, depending on which app you're on, being bombarded with men and women who have more than what you have, and it might not even be materialistically, it might be just biologically. Someone just might be a little bit more well off than you, and you're seeing this day after day after day over and over and over again, especially in your adolescence. It can definitely shift how you perceive yourself and how you perceive everybody around you, and it can definitely like other everyone else from you and from your loved ones, and this can even pertain to your own family. It's when you're constantly just seeing what you don't have, and you don't really have a whole lot of time to reflect on what you do already have. You compare yourself to all these other people that you probably should not even be comparing yourself to. You're two completely different people with completely different circumstances that you there's no reason for you to even look at that person and be like, oh, this person has this. That person might have that because of things probably out of their control. It's like same with you. So it's it's causing a lot of turmoil for people because there's so many things within their own life already doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and then they get bombarded by all these successful people, these good-looking people, these people who are just more well off than they are, and this is happening every single day, everywhere you look, on the TV, music, all different types of art. You're just seeing people that have more than you, and it's never been this way. You in New York City, and even then, you were only for the longest time before the internet and before we connected on such a national and global scale. It was just hard to really to compare yourself to someone who wasn't in your environment, and that was probably made it easier to find things to relate to find camaraderie, to rally together and to yeah, just make those full honest connections with people. um Now things are it's a lot more difficult now because you just have pretty much so much more competition. You don't have to be friends with people in your community. You can be friends with someone online on a completely different continent than you. You don't have to basically settle for the people who are around you. And uh, I see this friendless epidemic as a blessing over seeing it as a curse, because it is making people really look deep inside themselves and be like, what do I want? What do I need? Where do I need to be? Where's my tribe? Who are for me? Who's against me? And even though right now we're definitely going through the growing pains of that, where like I was saying earlier, looking at all of our differences, I think overall this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to compare ourselves to each other, see what he has, what she has, what they have, and what I don't have, and what they don't have, and what I have. And that's going to give people the opportunity that we've never had before for a lot of self reflection and self growth, to understand that yes, I am not the most well-off person in the world, that things are not going the way that I wanted to, that I was pretty much lied to for a lot of things in my life. But I don't have to dwell on it and act like my life is over and this is over and that's over. There's the science isn't settled on how you need to live your life. Um, so many people all throughout history, especially successful people, have had very few to almost no friends, like true friends, where you can just tell them anything. Like they'll come at your aid on a drop of a hat. People who are just loyal and all these things. This has always kind of been rare, honestly. I don't think people have really been that way. People have always had different motives, and it's always been neutral. It's never been good or bad. It's just how people have been. But people have also been doing the same thing, so we've always looked pretty similar all throughout history for the most part. And we always done the same things, but now that we're becoming more individualistic, there seems to be a huge divide between people. You know, people are more attractive than they ever been, but people have also been the most unattractive they've ever been in human history, at least from what I'm seeing and observing. And that's because people are just doing their own things. They've been doing their own things for a very, very long time because we have the option to. And that's also causing a huge shift between people where you're just constantly comparing yourself to other people, and that's like a very biological reaction. You know, you just kind of have to do that right off the rip. But once we all kind of get past this, okay, this person has this, I don't have this, I have this person doesn't have this, and we can say, okay, this is all of our differences. We can start to hyper focus on our similarities, and that's going to bring us closer together, like that Chinese finger trap. You know, you're constantly trying to pull and pull and pull. You're not going to go anywhere. But once you come together, figure out your similarities, then you'll be able to pull apart. And I think that's the goal that we're trying to get to. You know, we're just pulling and pulling and pulling, and it's not really having much of an effect. We're just kind of this huge cultural, biological tug of war that we're going through. It's definitely tiring people out where they are just giving up and not really accepting what life has told them they need to be or who they're going to be, which is completely valid. But eventually, at some point, we are going to have to come together just so we can break apart. And reinvent, what our societies are going to be, with this friendless epidemic. We're seeing a lot of, collapses of society, which is always supposed to happen. If things were, if anything in life, if it's supposed to last, the foundation for it is going to be so solid that nothing can destroy it, or very few things can destroy it. So if a society is being destroyed, if it's collapsing, then the foundation isn't sound. So it's probably for the best if certain parts of societies does collapse, because things always need to be stress tested to see how durable it truly, truly is under any type of stress. That's pretty much what we have to do in societies. Is be like, oh, okay, if we're going to start, making the, let's say, age of consent 14 here, and that's going to be a societal norm. And 50 years from that point, from that new law, society, at least in during that time, starts to become more unhinged. People start to become more violent. People will start to become, there's a lot more turmoil and trauma because of it, where society is all of a sudden, starting to crack, starting to show its cracks. Then clearly we should not have used that law as a foundation for our society. It doesn't make us wrong. It doesn't make what we did immoral. It's just, okay, that wasn't, we clearly weren't tapped into how things were going to go. We don't actually have a good gauge on how people are and what human nature is. And we need to go back to the drawing board. A lot of people did get hurt, or a lot of trauma was created by this. But it's kind of how things are. As humans, we are very, very imperfect. We will never know what the right thing to do is. So it's always going to be. I mean, we've always been going through trial and error, and that's pretty much what's going on with friendships. People, especially people who are neurodivergent, who have autism and other different labels. We're looking for more authenticity from people, and that's been very rare, honestly, throughout human history. People have always kind of said one thing and done another over and over and over again, to where we're finally getting to the point where people are seeing through it. The smoke screens that people were throwing at others to get what they want, or just aren't working anymore. The smoke and mirrors, the tricks, all that stuff. Like, even children can see through people who are being phony, and that's what's causing one of the pillars of the causing this friendless epidemic that's happening all over the world, where people are just looking for genuine connections, and we are learning that that is actually a very rare thing. Where you might only have, you live 80 years, you might only have three like genuine friends throughout those 80 years. You can't truly expect to have true, meaningful friendships at the school you go to, or the town you grew up in. Because sure, you're all in the same place, you're all in the same environment, with how jobs are, where people aren't living close to where they work as much anymore, especially with remote work. You're getting people from all over different countries with different cultures. It's going to be even increasingly more difficult to find people who not only look like you and have the same values as you. You're going to run into people who are just going to be on a completely different wavelength as you, and it's going to be even harder to find those genuine connections with those people when we're constantly comparing ourselves to those people, and not looking for the things that set us apart, and not what brings us together as humans, as animals. So it's we're going through some growing pains with when it comes to connecting with people, and even with their own families. I feel like there's a family epidemic as well. There are things that I'm also going through myself. So I definitely empathize with it. I'm not really sure who my true friends are. I know I have them. I know everyone who makes these posts and these videos about not having any friends, you do. You just might not know who they are, because you and the person who you might not think is your friend are both going through the same thing. But since we don't really talk about it, these aren't conversations we have about not having friends, like true, genuine friends. Um, you might not even know who your true friend might be, like the dude across the street, or the chick at the coffee shop you see. Those might be your genuine friends, but we don't actually know that, because we don't actually say these things out loud. But we're gonna get to that point. Videos like this, posts like these, are getting to that point where people are just going to be like, hey, I don't have any friends, and people are going to be like, well, you seem pretty cool, I want to be your friend. All of a sudden, boom, people are going to get closer and closer and closer, and then we're going to be able to break away and have more cordial connections with people. So it's just the growing pains of that. This is what's been going on for, I think, millennials, our entire existence. It's nothing has stayed the same. Things have been constantly shifting and changing. We are going through the most impactful human evolution in history, I believe, right now. We have never just seen so many changes happen. I'm 31 years old, and the amount of things that have changed since my adolescence to adulthood, when you really think about it, it's just insane. I was born in 1993, and I've seen all the way from the pager and everything, all the way leading up to the smartphones, with television, like I said, with the internet, with video games and TV and movies and music. things have just shifted so quickly, and we've never seen that ever before, to where we are constantly has have to be on our A game. Um, we cannot just relax and take inventory. We're constantly on the move. We're constantly going and going and going. And sure, looking at it from the close eye view of it, it's very overwhelming for sure. But if you zoom out, and if you've been able to maintain your sanity during it, it has made all of us more resilient than any generation ever. Um, Whenever we do get a hold of it, us millennials and even Gen Z, and to an extent Gen X as well, we are just going to be able to pass down so much wisdom to the kids who are going to be coming up, even though there aren't going to be a whole lot of them, since people don't have kids anymore, which is also uh, a blessing when you really think about it, because that comes with a lot of self-awareness from people that they didn't have before. Um, we really are going to be up. What's coming up for us is going to be like a dawn of something beautiful. We are definitely going to be we're headed towards like a renaissance in human history. I'm not sure when it's going to happen. I'm hoping I'll be alive to see it. We'll see, but we are definitely headed towards something beautiful. We just have to get past this growing pains. This has been very rough for all of us. COVID definitely didn't help, but things are getting more challenging for people more than ever, because of the um, choices that were made by people who came before us. But like the saying says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And we are the most resilient people, like I said, in the human history. I know people want to romanticize, back in the BC, and even back, even 100 years ago, how hard things were, how this was and how that was, and it was. I feel like that was nothing compared to what we're dealing with now. Now we are getting attacked on all fronts: mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. We are constantly under stress. Now more than ever, you can't really run from it, you can't really hide from it, and it shows everywhere. Everywhere you go in every country, people are stressed the hell out. And it seems like the terrible, awful thing, which in a lot of cases it is. It's not the most ideal situation, but at the same time, it's going to make us more resilient as people. We are making a better future, for ourselves and for our children, by going through this, by saying these things out loud. You got people my age, a little bit older, a little bit younger, saying out loud that they are struggling making connections, struggling making friends. That's only going to be beneficial to people moving forward. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to see what's going on. They're going to recognize the patterns of why people aren't making friends, and they're going to adapt to it. And they're going to make, we're going to create better ways of making genuine connections. It just sucks that we're going through this now. It's not the most preferable thing to do, but if you really talk to people a little bit older than you, in their 60s, 70s, and above that, you will see that a lot of them didn't really have a lot of genuine connections. You know what I'm saying? If they did, they all wouldn't be in these nursing homes and living by themselves and only talking to a few people every year. If you really talk to them, which I've been doing, you will see that a lot of people, and all of our parents and grandparents, did not have a lot of friends, genuine friends, and they didn't have the self-awareness to be saying that in their 20s and 30s and their teens like we do. So if we're doing this now, just imagine what the next generation is going to be doing in the future. So this is just all part of evolving, all part of changing, all part of this becoming better people, better animals. So we can just continue doing great things that we've been doing since the beginning of time. I know we're very hard on ourselves, saying we're doing this, that, climate change, racism, sexism, all these different things, but these things have always existed. They've always been there, We're just being more self-aware about it, and we're being more cautious of it, and we're trying our best to move past it. These things are going to take time, though, um, and just trying to find that optimism, trying to be more glass half full about these things is really going to change your whole perspective on this. I wasn't always here. I kind of was given the tools to get to this position by a few of my therapists and the people who I've had in my life who I was kind of overlooking and didn't really fully grasp the wisdom that they were passing on to me. But now that I'm older and I've given myself the time to process and digest everything that I've received, I can definitely see the beauty in all of this. Everything that happened, even COVID. A lot of people don't think it is like a disaster. No one wanted it to happen, but there was a lot of beautiful things that came out of that. And we will see that over the next few years of how there's this beauty in life, and we should all, at least I'll speak for myself, be very grateful to be able to experience something like that, and learn from it and grow from it and reflect on what caused these things and how we are as people, how we are as animals, and how we can improve. Instead of demonizing people, we can relate to them. I have a goal to one day humanize Hitler. People want to demonize him because of the acts that he did, but when you really see how he became the man that he became and how he wasn't born that way, he was pretty much made that way, like every other terrible person not terrible the terrible person, but a person who's done terrible things. We can keep people like him from re-emerging, but if you just keep demonizing them, all you're doing is just giving him more exposure. And I forgot that one performer, not performer, the Greatest Showman. I forgot his name, but he says, there's no such thing as bad publicity, and that is 100% true. The more we talk about that man, the more publicity he's going to get, the more fame he's going to get. We need to get to the point where we're like, okay, yeah, that happened, and how do we keep that from happening again? What caused that? What were the things that society allowed to manifest a man like that, so we don't have any more of him? And we're going to have to get to a point of forgiving who he was as a man, and not so much his actions. I don't think we should ever really forgive his actions, but just forgive him for who he is, and forgive ourselves for passing so much judgment on someone that we don't truly fully understand ourselves. Because once we fully understand ourselves, then we can see, oh, that's why he did the things that he did. He was very animalistic. He was very emotional, and he isn't someone that we need to pedestalize as this like demigod, or however people want to see him, as a devil or whatever. He's just a human like all the rest of us. He's an animal. I know that's a little bit of a tangent, but I know that kind of ties back into like the Friends, where people are just becoming more self-aware and just understanding like their limitations, their flaws, their setbacks, and coming to terms with them. And then while you're doing that, you can also see the beauty of those limitations. That I'm not, you might be overweight or short, or you might have all these disabilities. You can see like, wait, I have all these shortcomings that are keeping me from doing what I perceive is what I'm supposed to be doing, or having what I'm supposed to have. But all it is just a challenge for you to overcome. And that's what's going on with the Friends. This a challenge, okay? It's you are struggling to find people to connect with. You have enough self-awareness to understand that I don't actually have friends. Now what? Now what are you going to do? How are you going to solve that? Because clearly what you've been doing this entire time hasn't gotten you the results that you're looking for. How are you going to change that? How are we all going to be moving forward to connect? You're already doing a big step now by saying it out loud and letting other people know that this is something that you're going through. So, you know, how are you going to take all these adversities and challenges in your life, and how are you going to continue to evolve as a person? So there's some of my thoughts, some of my theories, and more of my crazy rambling. So yeah, y'all take it easy.